As South Africa is riding a wave of investor cash ahead of the country's most important election in decades. Money is pouring in on bets that the ruling ANC will avoid being forced by left-leaning coalition partners to implement less market-friendly policies. Let's bring in our finance reporter, Adelaide Changole, who is in Johannesburg. And Adelaide, can you just tell us why this election may bring about economic change?
Thank you for having me. So the policy, what has happened now is just investors being excited about the continuation of reforms that have been implemented over the last few years, with the ruling African National Congress now expected potentially to remain in power by garnering enough policies, investor support or enough support from the upcoming elections to win potentially a majority, even if it's not a majority, enough that they will be able to form the next government. So investors are excited about the fact that they will not be seeing some of the left-leaning parties coming in. There was some concern earlier that the ruling coalition would get as low as 38% of the vote, have to partner up with some of the left-leaning political parties, and investors are concerned about seeing things like policies like the expropriation of land, the nationalizing of the South Africa Reserve Bank, and this was very concerning. So news that the ruling coalition, the African National Congress might get as much as 50%, or maybe 45 to 50%. That is exciting investors, and we are seeing quite a bit of inflows into the country's financial markets as a result.
Well, let me just ask you a question about how the international community are actually positioning for the election. I think we're coming off a year where South Africa was not an appealing place to invest. And yet, given what you're saying now, it feels as though investor sentiment has started to change. What do you think positioning is like right now?
So it's quite interesting about that. We've been seeing quite a bit of inflows into the country's bonds market. I think in April, we've seen the biggest inflow on record since Bloomberg started tracking the data in 2019. We've seen the stock market rallying. The South Africa's currency, the rand, is up. It has erased year-to-date losses. And that gain has lifted South African assets, particularly the locally focused ones. We're seeing bonds, we're seeing the country's banks, we're seeing the retailers doing well. The market is up on a year-to-date basis. So there is quite a bit of upswing and optimism that is being witnessed within the markets.